We're back with another edition of the Federalist Radio Hour. I'm Emily Jashinksy, culture editor here at The Federalist. As always, you can email the show at radio@thefederalist.com. Follow us on Twitter at FDRLST. Make sure to subscribe wherever you download your podcasts as well. Today, I'm here with senior editor at The Federalist, Christopher Bedford.
Lucky you.
Yeah, right. How are you, Chris?
I think you should find more people to hang out with you.
You know, we get complaints about you.
Do you? I'm glad to hear that. I got some fan mail today. I'm not even going to say what was in it, but it was vile. It was vile. It was disgusting. And I found that I kind of liked it.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so we're going to talk about sort of the conventional political story of the day, but we're going to do it, of course, with the Federalist perspective, which is unique, singular, you could say.
It's singular.
Refreshing, you might even say.
I'm just glad you didn't modify unique. It's incredible how many people do.
Yeah, no, it's extremely unique.
Something can't be very one of a kind.
This is a conversation that only two editors can have.
It pains me.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate being, I hate like...
To be right, it's a burden.
Well, I also just hate the impulse to sort of critique grammar because it's a stupid impulse.
That's because you're from Wisconsin. From Massachusetts, we like to be mean to people.
A house of learned doctors. All right,
also
Chris,
very smart.
Let's dive into the proxy battle that is allegedly happening in the Congress, where we have the entire media taking Liz Cheney's spin that she is being persecuted for standing up to Donald Trump. And
what a bad leader she is.
Well, okay, so get into this. Tell us, do the devil's advocate thing here. I am, right now, I am Chris Liza. Or I'm sorry, Ryan Liza. I was going Chris Liza and Ryan Liza. Yeah. So pretend I'm Ryan Liza and I'm Politico Playbook, and I'm saying, Chris, this is about Trump.
Nope. Ryan Liza actually knows this. Like, he knows this, which is why it's dishonest. Anyway, at least not everyone knows this, but a lot of the DC reporters know that Liz Cheney is a bad leader. Now, you get Steny Hoyer, or you get a moderate, you get a Democrat who's not exactly all on board. This person's in leadership. It's their job to represent the caucus. If that person spent every microphone moment attacking AOC or attacking someone who is problematic in the Democratic Party, attacking Louis Farrakhan, attacking any one of these people, no matter how problematic they were, they would be out of leadership in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. Now, that's just what you do. A backbencher is allowed to do these sorts of things. A backbencher is allowed to criticize leadership, to attack the party, to attack the president. They can deal with their voters. But Liz Cheney, your job is to be leadership. The Democratic Party would not tolerate a moderate in its midst attacking the president, or attacking Nancy Pelosi, attacking AOC, or attacking the moderates. You just have to kind of keep your mouth shut and let Nancy run the thing. So reporters understand that, and they're being very dishonest when they're saying this is a moment of truth. This is a moment of truth. Liz Cheney has taken every single moment that she can over the past few months to try and turn it into airing Republican dirty laundry. I'm not exactly sure why she thinks that's a winning strategy. I think she's extremely delusional. Wants to be in charge. She wants to be in charge of the GOP. She thinks that she is the next Margaret Thatcher. She literally planted that quote in Politico, which is completely insane.
Wait. Did they actually?
They called her the next Margaret Thatcher,
who
the
said
Iron
that?
Lady, a congressman who wouldn't go on the record. By the way, if someone won't go on the record to compliment you and you're in Republican leadership, that's also really, you have to be saying something that's so stupid. And you're embarrassed to say it. Okay, I'll say this, Liz, but you can't put my name on it. And it's sure, she is the cat's ass. She is the cat's ass. It's just bad leadership. So Democrats are being really disingenuous when they pretend that this is a stand for truth against Donald Trump. Also, Donald Trump is the head of the party. And, a lot of this kind of comes down to, I was just discussing this with a bunch of interesting folks from the Hill and former Hill, saying, what's going on here? And I'm trying to get them to write an article, but I might just steal it for myself instead. There's a difference in how elections are run in the caucuses, essentially, between Republicans and Democrats, where Democrats have actual elections for leadership positions. If you want to be in leadership, you have to go talk to the Congressional Black Caucus. You have to go talk to the progressives. You have to go talk to the moderates. You've got to make your case, and then you win, or you lose. The Republicans are like, who's next?
Well, so to go off of that, I think my take is that, like, if this were about Trump, as Playbook spun it this morning, and has Politico has been doing this all week, other outlets have been doing this all week as well. If this were about Donald Trump, then she would have been gone 2 months ago, right? Or however long ago the original fight was happening, when she was actually the primary thing on everybody's mind was her comments on the election. Now, Kevin McCarthy was caught on a hot mic, and the media has used this, I guess, against him to make the point that it's about Trump. But he was caught on a hot mic saying he's had it with her.
He'd had it with her before the election, that he voted and gave a speech in her favor.
Right.
He'd already been finished with her, because of that Politico piece, which is worth going back and reading. We made fun of it. I made fun of it at the Federalist, calling her the Iron Lady, and saying that she's trying to she's the future of the GOP. That, like, Kevin McCarthy was the speaker, was the leader at that time.
Yeah.
So he's sitting there going, "You're launching a public coup in Politico against me when I'm this, like." So he doesn't.
But that's not about Trump, right?
That
So,
wasn't
like,
about
that's
Trump.
the point. Like,
so McCarthy's like, "I don't like you. You're a backstabber. No one likes you." But it didn't look like the caucus was going to throw her out over her comments on Trump. So he said, "You know what? I support her." And now they're all stuck with her, thinking we should have just kicked her out.
But this is my point, is that they may be fighting about Trump, but she's not getting kicked out because they're fighting about Trump. She's being ousted, or there's an attempted ouster, because of the way that they're fighting, but the way that she's chosen to pick this fight, which is not, conducive to being in leadership, right? It's not that she's not.
That's not good leadership.
Right. It's not that she's not a good fit for leadership because she has a different perspective on the election and on Donald Trump. It's that she's not good for leadership because she's gone about this fight in a completely sort of like
embarrassing. If you're a Republican, by the way, I don't care about the Republican Party. Like,
nor do I.
I find them more fun to beat up on and more interesting because they're more responsive. AOC is not going to respond to the average conservative voter.
Well, if you're a Christian, I mean, the Republican Party is really the only vehicle for sanity. But this is the thing.
She also doesn't raise money for her colleagues.
That's the point, right? Like
Molly Hemingway wrote a great piece on this. She's a bad team player.
Right. That's the point. And she's not a bad team player because of her views on Trump. She's a bad team player because the way she goes, it factors in, of course, but it's the way that she's gone about it, right? Like, you can't be in leadership and pick these fights in a way that divides and it's not like constructive. It's just more about messaging your opinion instead of like, I'm not a party person. I don't give a damn about the Republican Party, but I can understand if you do give a damn about the Republican Party. Let's not pretend that the party apparatuses are about principle. They never are, and they never have been.
No. And you kind of don't really need principled people in leadership. You're
not going to get them.
Yeah, you're not going to get them. You generally, at least in the party leadership, not at the presidency level, or even in the top senators, but you just need people who make it run. People who
raise money.
Yeah, people who raise money. People who, I mean, that's the point of being elected, right? Is to raise money for your next election. But at the end of the day, you do need an operating party, and one that can raise money and do well, and doesn't have to go to the RNC for all of their checks, even though they all do all the time anyways. And she has just been failing in that. So, but I'm wondering, what's her point here? What's her goal? Because is this her goal? She's been putting out a message. She's been messaging Trump bad, Liz Cheney good, Republicans bad, Liz Cheney good for months now. And now the Hill was running with it. I saw the most obnoxious op-eds all over the place. The CNN's running
Journal.
it. The journals. The Wall Street Journal is still putting out sycophantic things for bad politicians. So, like, there are some good people at the Journal, but they're generally bad. I couldn't believe that they did that. But actually, I wasn't surprised at all that they still had the McConnell mouthpiece over there. So is this her goal? Was her goal to get all the major papers to attack her own party and say she's who's her team? Is she going to go to the Democratic side?
Well, the media is her team. The political establishment is her team, and that's the point. That's why she's not good in GOP leadership.
McCarthy's done with her. He's not like a Freedom Caucus guy. He's not a bad leader, though.
The thing is that let's not pretend that people in positions of leadership are going to be the most principled conservatives. That will never happen. And as a goal, it's implausible.
They should at least understand what's going on around them.
Yeah.
And McCarthy does. And McConnell just does what he wants.
But that's Liz Cheney's Liz Cheney's audience right now is the political establishment, and it is interesting because I thought it was fascinating to see Club for Growth come out against Elise Stefanik because they do have very different scorecards with conservative groups. Liz Cheney before the election was very in line with Trump and was sort of happy to be seen close to Trump, right? Like she was happy to be seen as an ally to Donald Trump.
She's happy to be seen as an ally next to Joe Biden too.
Yeah, right.
She almost blew him over.
But that's when your audience is powerful people, you do what is going to do best for you with powerful people at any given moment.
But you need power. I mean,
but that's my But again,
I'm well liked in court, but if I go out into the countryside, my peasants are going to burn me at the stake. That's not a good place to be if you're trying to be a warlord here. I'm sorry. I'm reading about the 30 Years' War right now, and I've been reading about it for months because I'm a slow reader, and it's a really complicated war.
Well, we don't need to litigate the 30 Years' War right now. But
Catholics really lost it on that one.
Yeah.
We were so close.
But no, I mean, it's been really funny to watch the media suddenly act as though Liz Cheney, who, by the way, they were criticizing when she was happy to be seen as an ally for Trump. I mean, if anything, this is a proxy battle for the media's obsession with Trump. It's less about, in reality, this is less about Republicans and Trump. And it's more about the media. And two things can be true, right? Republicans can be, and I think they are, too intolerant of the sort of harsh truth about the election, right? I don't think the Republican Party should still be happy to have Donald Trump saying he won in a landslide because I don't think there's evidence that he won in a landslide. But at the same time, Liz Cheney can be terrible in Republican leadership, and we don't have to act like this is some stupid, simple narrative for the media's benefit and for the opposition of Trump. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
President DeSantis and Vice President Tim Scott dismantle the Philadelphia machine and arrest everyone. If we can start with that, then I'm not going to talk about voting machines and scare everyone away. Just to start with arrest Philadelphia.
Start small.
Yeah, start small. Yeah. Stefanik that's a funny example where Dominich pointed this out on Twitter earlier this week. Ben Dominich used to have a podcast, the Jashinksy Show now, I think it is. He pointed out, Eric Cantor had, a 95% from the American Conservative Union. He was arguing back and forth in good faith with Tim Carney, kind of libertarian D.C. writer. He's like, it doesn't matter. The ACU rating doesn't always get it. Cantor didn't understand what was going on. He missed it, and he attacked his own party, and he traded out basically over the immigration issue. He lost. He was just too disconnected. That's where we are right now. But I mean, if you look at, you don't need a conservative in conference chair. What's a conference chair supposed to do? Raise money, help you raise your profile, help you get on television. Work with members from the Freedom Caucus to the liberal Republicans and say, all right, yeah, you want to get this message out for the GOP? Sure. I mean, Elise Stefanik is not a rock-ribbed conservative, remotely. But Elise Stefanik, licked her finger, put it in the air, and said, we're anti-impeachment.
Yes.
Elise Stefanik is anti-impeachment. Yep. And, whatever. She's a team player for the GOP.
Also, it was a stupid impeachment.
It was a perfect phone call. And it was a perfect speech. It was a perfect speech.
Okay, but let's get into this because this is an important point that this is a much broader point is that
perfect speech.
So is Elise Stefanik more conservative than Liz Cheney? I would argue
right now.
But I would say no, but that's not true. I would argue that neither of them is particularly conservative.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's so when you have these ratings that take a neocon like Liz Cheney,
which is a politician,
or take somebody who was anti-impeachment more than she was pro-Trump, Elise Stefanik. There's really no good way to gauge what constitutes conservatism in 2021 on these scorecards because it's shifting, right? Neoconservatism doesn't define conservatism anymore. Fiscal conservatism sure as hell doesn't define conservatism anymore.
That was kind of a blip. It was really popular at the beginning of the 20th century. And then they kind of lost the New Deal. Reagan didn't care about it at all.
That's not true.
No, Reagan wanted to defeat the Soviet Union.
Yeah, but Reagan also wanted limited government, federal government, which is fiscal conservatism. They go hand in hand. Whether or not you are actually executing on it is a different story.
I mean, I personally am entirely think that we should defend our country from missiles, but I don't know if Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars, it was nicknamed, is like the most limited government thing I ever said. Ron Paul was like, NASA's not in the Constitution. Which,
No, true.
That's a different kind of big government, small government guy.
No, that's a totally fair point. But then again, like there's what is our metric right now? Like so answer this question. Who's more conservative, Elise Stefanik or Liz Cheney?
It's kind of like arguing, like, does Tucker Carlson's camera guy back his politics?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe some of them do. They all like him. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's your job. You're the conference chair.
Yeah.
If Jim Jordan walks into your room and says, I want to be on TV for this, or Mike Lee, not Mike Lee wouldn't, he's a senator. Somebody walks out and says, I want to be on TV for this issue. They're going to say, okay, let's help you. Like, let's get you here. Let's do with that. Like, how do we have party resources to push party measures? And, if Elise Stefanik or some liberal walks in and says, like, I want to do this for the push my thing I'm doing with the party. Like, that's what you do.
Well, do you remember a couple of months ago, we did a podcast with Ben talking about Mitch McConnell. This was a podcast that was like about why Mitch McConnell is sort of missing the moment and is not a Republican that is in touch or conducive to.
He knew exactly what he wanted, though.
Well, so this is interesting, right? Like, was any of our conversation about Mitch McConnell missing a litmus test for Trump? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Not until the very end, when the very rare moment where Mitch McConnell felt something like an emotion and he didn't know what it was, so he just let it out. It was like, bah! It was like raging at the microphone, recording the Democratic commercial for the midterms. And it was like, I guess you've never had a temper tantrum, Mitch. You don't even know what a temper is, and that was a temper tantrum, but you just didn't. But usually what he did was the turtle tantrum. Woo, that was good.
Yeah.
Usually
not really.
what he
It's pretty bad.
I liked it. The Daily Caller made a Turtles that looked like Mitch McConnell's slideshow. It was like one of the original kickoffs of the Turtle thing, and it was perfectly done, like laugh out loud funny. And his staff were so mad.
I'm sure.
So mad about it.
I can't even get into what my favorite Daily Caller slideshows are because in 2021 they're so politically incorrect.
Yeah, as a CNN reporter who did a lot of the best ones. Mitch McConnell would basically just say, all right, MAGA.
It was Daniel Dale. He was running the Daily Caller slideshow.
Still is Mitch McConnell would come out and say, hey, you want to do this? Trump wants to do this. Trump wants to do that. That's fine. I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to do corporate tax cuts, and I'm going to do Mitch McConnell judges, and I'm going to scream MAGA while I do it.
Yeah.
And everyone, all you idiots are going to scream MAGA right back at me, and it'll be fine, and we'll get through this together.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like Paul Ryan, who is probably the worst speaker of the 21st century so far, like easily, I would say, completely useless, man. I'm a wonk. Anyone who calls himself a wonk is an idiot.
I don't think he's worse than Boehner.
Oh, no. Boehner was much more effective. Boehner's problem is he cried.
Yeah, but Boehner
wasn't. Alcoholic.
I mean, Boehner didn't have the burden of doing this in the Trump era.
Shoot, yeah. But, Mitch McConnell, who was a little smarter, would just disappear. Did you ever see Mitch McConnell press conference in 2016?
Genius. Yeah.
Like,
but
he
Paul
was like,
Ryan tried to do that.
Paul Ryan was getting sucked into the television every other day. What about Donald Trump said this? If you're like the House Speaker and someone says Donald Trump said he grabs women by the pussy and moves on them like a bitch, and Paul Ryan's got to be like, I'm a Republican, I vote for my guy. Like, he just didn't know what to do. Like, what you do is don't be on camera. Yeah. Just go. Like, where's Mitch McConnell? Find his watering hole, his lily pad, and go there.
I think it's harder in the House than in the Senate. Senate is slower.
Have to have meaner staff. If you ever somebody starts to bother Mitch McConnell, some reporter starts to ask him questions, he's ignoring them. A reporter walks up and says, "If you say one more thing to the minority leader or the speaker, you will never hear from this office for the rest of your ass life, and you'll never be in my fraternity." And they're like, and then you're just like, drink all of it, pledge. And before you know it, they just leave him alone. Paul Ryan's staff were probably like, we should condemn Trump.
I mean, it is partially a problem of who you surround yourself with. Okay, so let's answer the question that's really at the root of all of this, which is to what extent is Donald Trump, loyalty to Donald Trump, a litmus test for Republican leaders? And I want to ask that question because it gets to the question of to what extent is he a litmus test for the voters, right? So this is my sort of opinion of of it based on what I see with polling and what I, hear when you go to these sorts of events. I think on the one hand, you have a good chunk of the Republican base that is more loyal to Trump than they are to the Republican Party. And go ahead.
That's like me. I was just raising my hand.
Oh, it's you.
I'm definitely more loyal to Donald Trump than the Republican Party. They suck.
Why do you have to be loyal to either?
I'm not really. I mean, I like his ideas.
Okay. Art of the Donald. You can order that on Amazon.
It's a stocking stuffer. It's a Mother's Day gift. People, it's a Father's Day gift. It's a great read. It's the best read. It's
What
very
did he
good.
call you?
It's not the Bible. It's not the Bible.
Respected author. Highly respected author.
Christopher Bedford. Great book, people. Donald Trump read it before it was out.
There you go. Well, so my point was going to be, I think there's like 30% of the Republican base that is more loyal to Donald Trump than they are to the Republican Party. And that's a huge chunk. And that is a lot of those white working class voters that voted Democrat before Trump came into the party. They care more about Trump than they do anybody else.
And are more embarrassed about if they voted for Romney than if they voted for Obama.
That's how you win. That's how you keep Paul Ryan's district, right? Like that's those districts. There has to be a balance here, but at the same time, there is this contingency of suburban voters that are more Trump isn't why they vote Republican, right? They have different issues.
They got scared of COVID. They got scared of lockdown. They have different issues, and they don't like that Trump says mean words and is mean to people.
But this is the thing.
They don't like that.
Republicans and Democrats are dealing with a similar dilemma now in that you have the suburban voters and the populist voters, and the Democrats' populist voters are, cultural leftists. Whereas their economic voters are the opposite, like they're anti-woke boomers. And then on the right, you have the populist voters who are anti-woke and pro-populist economics. But then you still have the suburban voters who are just like fiscal conservatives and want stability and low taxes.
So I think we're in an interesting place with Donald Trump. And I kind of actually wrote about this in the book, is like, you see this with a lot of really successful people. You see this with a lot of home run kings. They're also strikeout kings. You see this with like the things that make very successful men and women very successful are typically always double-edged. Like they can cut both ways. Mm-hmm. They can make you the king and they can take you right down again. Mm-hmm. One of those things that Donald Trump's really assisted himself with is his single-mindedness and his refusal to deal with what people are attacking him with. Like if you want to attack him all day in the New York Times, if he doesn't live in the New York Times world that day, if he says he's going to live in New York Post world, you can't hurt him. Like you can't touch him. He's got some interest in it, but it's a single-minded attack. Now that can also go against him because his problem with running for re-election again, which is what he's leaning towards wanting to do, is see what he did there, re-election again.
Very cool. Very unique.
Trump 2024, 2028, 2022. But if he won't be able to go out there and just talk about the last election. Americans elected a winner. They didn't elect a sore loser. Now, you could take those ideas because those ideas are essential. The base will not follow anyone like that who doesn't have those ideas. Liz Cheney is proving that right now. Even the cowardly Republicans are like, this doesn't look good. Yeah. And when's the last time you heard of someone in the Capitol Hill who was like, seriously, when the doors were closed, congressmen say, well, the base doesn't think that. They don't care. They're horrible. They're as good at winning re-election in the base as they are as like betraying them. But they know like, oh, this Liz Cheney stuff is bad. So you have to have a character out there like Ron DeSantis, who's going out there and representing very well and doing a lot of these things that Donald Trump does without accusing female reporters of bleeding from their face and their wherever, which was still one of the greatest tweets of all time. No, I'm mixing them up. That was Megyn Kelly.
You're conflating
Megyn Kelly, but
Mika.
he said crazy Mika, or stupid Mika and crazy Joe. She had facelift. Yeah. She was bleeding, and then they came. I remember that it was like my favorite moment in media history.
Well, so I didn't like that tweet.
Oh, it was so.
As a woman,
it was a perfect tweet.
As a woman,
so she and Joe Scarborough, who were at that point like in between lecturing America on its character, were having a very open affair on their spouses, who they had their children with on television. So they were leaving to go on vacation together. These married people, and they had to suspend their vacation together. And there was a countdown on MSNBC, Joe and Mika suspend vacation, coming back to respond. And Mika Brzezinski,
Yes, that's right. Yes.
who was like, don't take this level of abuse, don't take this level of harassment, went out there and gave a painstaking explanation and wrote an essay about how her mother had told this woman, who's like in her 50s now, like a full-grown woman, you need a tweak on your face. You need a little chin tweak, I think it was. Imagine if you're in your 50s and your mother's like, you need to get some work done. That chin I gave you, not good.
Then you're just
Like,
you have too much
Donald
money.
Trump abused you? Like, this is insane. So she's explaining this on air. Meanwhile, do you know what actually happened the day that he tweeted that? Mitch McConnell failed to repeal Obamacare. That was the day that he did that. And it got like 35 seconds. I was watching it to tune in, drinking a beer. I was like, it got like 35 seconds of coverage. And then they went back to Mika Brzezinski being crazy
Shouldn't
and
you have
Joe
been at
being
work?
crazy. It was the greatest news event of all time.
I forgot tune in as your newsroom.
Yeah, I was in between meetings
Oh.
at the tune-in,
Yeah,
all of them,
yeah.
and I stayed.
I don't know where we're going with it. No, we were talking about suburban
Donald Trump's
voters.
ideas of the future. So anyways, people like Ron DeSantis who are out there
Yeah, I
are
agree.
not going to send that tweet. And that I think these ideas, if presented well, we're going to have sway with the suburban voters who just.
And working class people.
And you know, a high-ranking official, not anonymous, an actually very high-ranking official in the White House told me that no matter where he went in the country following Trump, he would always go to the bars. He wanted to talk to the cops, the firefighters, like the working people, and wasn't as recognizable a person. He could do that, and he said no matter where I was in the most honky-tonk bar or in the nicest establishment, I heard people saying, could you just tell them to tone it down a little bit?
Yeah, no, I've heard that from
Across the country.
sources everywhere. Yeah.
I heard that from people who had Trump Rambo flags
Yeah.
with a Trump switchblade and Trump cowboy boots. They were like, tone it down a little bit.
Tone it down, but the other thing was just stop the tweeting. That's what even.
But I love the tweeting, and I'm so
But didn't
bored
you
without
hear
Joe
that?
Biden. It's
But-
I need that fix.
Isn't that what you heard though from a lot of people? Because I heard that all
everywhere.
the time. Was just tell them to stop tweeting.
And if meth is half as good as the last 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency were, and this is the come down, no wonder people claw their faces off. I'm ready to claw my face off every time Joe Biden says something. I'm
that was that was you could talk to pro-Trump people, you could talk to people who were just tolerant of Trump or just like Trump, but they would almost always say, just a little too much tweeting.
I'm maybe I'm one of the only ones out there who loved every single tweet.
This is because he hawked your books on Twitter.
I was the first he hawked. Now then he kind of turned it into a thing. He just endorsed books after that.
But the point of all of this is basically that you can be Ron DeSantis. So it is a difficult line to walk, right? It's a hard bridge to build, but it can be done. And somebody it's more of a personality thing. You can't strategize it. You just have to be somebody who is punching at bad, literal fake news, punching at it when
you need to fight
it's
on
bad.
every single level because Donald Trump didn't go into office and politicize Major League Baseball, the NFL, women's sports, school bathrooms, high school camp. He didn't go in and politicize the world. The left was trying to turn all these institutions into enemies of America and battlegrounds. And Trump went in there and said, well, I guess I'm fighting in 15 different bar rooms. And the man deserves a lot of credit for this, and a lot of other people wouldn't have. He walked in here, he attacked Washington, D.C., he attacked the GOP establishment, he attacked the news media, he attacked corporations, he attacked the deep state, he attacked Intel, and they eventually took him down. He didn't have a single friend in powerful places. He he fought for 4 years. It's pretty damn impressive. One hell of a legacy.
Okay.
By the book.
Calm down. All right, Chris.
Emily's a liberal.
No. I don't think so.
Emily's a liberal,
try.
fam.
Nice try. Again, now you're using Trump as a litmus test, just like Kevin McCarthy.
I said we should.
Okay. Well. Anyway, so and I think a good lesson from Ron DeSantis is that sort of proactively engage on cultural war issues, whether it's the police, whether it's big tech. That's a really important part of all of this, and that's not going to kill you in the suburbs. In fact, it'll probably help because people see it as authentic, and everybody's freaking sick of Facebook. So On that note, thanks for tuning in. Well, this has been another edition of the Federalist Radio Hour. He's Christopher Bedford, senior editor at the Federalist. I'm Emily Jashinksy, culture editor at the Federalist. We'll be back soon with more. Until then, be lovers of freedom and anxious for the fray.